This is the story of a boy who had a peculiar, almost unbelievable gift, a magical power that let him know exactly when and how a person would die. How he got this ability is part of the story, so let's dive right in. The film opens with a scene of utter devastation, a painful accident. A plane has just crashed. The destroyed pieces of the aircraft are scattered everywhere, and the number of dead people is in the hundreds. But by some miracle, a small child named Shin survives. He's searching frantically for his mom and dad, who are, most likely, gone. Amidst the chaos, he hears the faint voice of a little girl calling for help. She's asking Shin to save her, but he's so tiny, he doesn't understand what to do. Before he can react, a large part of the plane falls on the girl. We don't see whether she was dead or alive, and the scene immediately shifts. It's now years later, and we see Shin as a grown-up, working at a car garage. His boss, the garage owner, treats him like his own son. Shin, in turn, sees a reflection of his own father in the owner, because, as we know, his parents tragically died in that plane crash. The owner is soon planning to open another garage, and he wants Shin to become its manager. But Shin refuses the offer, feeling he isn't right for the position yet. The owner insists, giving him a chance to think it over. The owner's daughter also tries to convince Shin. She, too, feels that he's the only person who would be perfect for the post. Another worker at the garage, however, is furious about this. He's always been jealous of Shin because the owner always gave Shin more importance in every task. This jealousy often boiled over, and he'd express his anger by harassing Shin. Today, he bullies him, pushes him, and then walks off. Shin's mobile phone falls and breaks in the process. So, after finishing work, Shin goes to a shop to get his phone repaired. There, he meets a girl who works there, named Ao. Shin explains that his phone is broken and asks her to fix it. Ao mentions it's a very old model, and parts are hard to find. But somehow, she manages to fix his phone. That evening, as he looks at his phone at night, he can't help but keep remembering Ao. The next day, Shin takes the metro to work. While standing, he notices the hands of a man standing right next to him suddenly begin to disappear. It's at this moment we learn the truth. Shin had developed a power right after the plane crash. With this power, he can see people's future, specifically their death. The disappearing hands of the man on the metro were proof that he was going to die soon, but Shin can't do anything to stop it. He just goes to work. There, the owner's daughter once again tries to persuade him to become the manager, but Shin doesn't give her a clear answer. That night, he walks past the mobile shop and his eyes are still searching for Ao. Meanwhile, a stranger bumps into him and walks past. Her body is also starting to disappear. Shin starts following her, wondering what's about to happen. After going some distance, a car brutally runs her over and crushes her. Shin is filled with regret that he couldn't do anything to save her. He is utterly distressed. The next day, he asks the owner's daughter a hypothetical question. If she got a power to see people's future and know when someone was going to die, what would she do? She says flatly that this isn't a power, but a curse, and she wouldn't want such a thing. Shin then notices that his mobile is acting up again. He goes back to Ao to get it repaired, but then he gets truly scared. Ao's hands are also disappearing. He decides, right then, that he has to save her. He calls her to meet him after work. Ao is hesitant at first, but then agrees to meet him at a coffee shop. When she arrives, Shin is relieved and happy to see that Ao's hands are getting cured. Ao asks why he called her there. Shin tells her that he has the power to see the future, but he doubts she'd believe him. So, he just says sorry and leaves. As he walks home, he suddenly feels a sharp pain in his chest. But he manages to get home somehow. The next day, full of renewed confidence, he tells the owner that he is completely ready to become a manager. That evening, he stays late at the garage to work. Ao comes to meet him there. Shin is surprised to see her, and Ao explains that she got his address from the store. She's come to talk about something important. Shin offers her coffee. Ao then shows him a newspaper. She explains that a factory not far from her store was attacked last night, and many people died. She tells Shin she could have been among the dead because she goes home by the same route every day after work. But because of Shin, she was saved. She then brings up his comment about seeing the future and death, and she thanks him. Shin laughs it off, trying to make it sound like nothing. She's happy because this is the first time Shin has truly connected with someone. Before this, he never let anyone get close to him. We're then given a quick flashback. A girl who worked at the owner's garage liked Shin. They were just friends, and Shin never took an interest in her. Because of this, she ended up dating a rich customer who came to the garage and left forever. The story returns to the present, where the owner's daughter and Shin hear the owner shouting at the jealous worker. The worker had taken a customer's car to meet his friend without telling the owner. Instead of admitting his mistake, the worker gets angry at Shin, picks up something, and throws it at him. The owner is so enraged that he punches the worker hard and fires him. As soon as the worker leaves, Shin sees the owner's hand suddenly disappearing. This means the owner's life is also in danger. Since Shin considers him like his dad, he decides to save him. He asks the owner to have dinner with him after work. The owner agrees, and they start walking towards the hotel. On the way, Shin is hyper-focused on the owner and everything around them. Suddenly, from a dark spot, the jealous worker emerges, running towards the owner with an iron rod to hit him. Shin immediately steps in front of the owner and saves him. The owner is safe, but Shin collapses with a heart attack. He wakes up in the hospital. The owner's daughter tells him that her dad has forgiven the worker, who had confessed his mistake. The doctor examines Shin and says the heart attack was likely due to stress. Suddenly, Shin sees a little girl who is disappearing, and he tries to follow her. The doctor stops him and asks, "Did you see that girl disappearing too?" They go to the hospital roof to talk. "We are not God. Therefore, we do not have the right to change or tamper with someone's fate. And if someone tries to do this, their own life can be in danger." He tells Shin to let things happen as they will, otherwise his life will be at risk. This, he says, is why Shin had the heart attack. Shin spends the entire journey home thinking about this heavy revelation. The next day, he calls Ao to meet him and proposes marriage. Ao leaves without giving him an answer. But the day after that, she agrees. They start meeting regularly, and their love deepens. Meanwhile, the jealous worker comes back to the owner to ask for his job back. Shin recommends him, and the owner rehires him. The worker sincerely thanks both the owner and Shin. The next day, Shin gets 2 rings made for himself and Ao. He also goes to the hospital for a checkup. The doctor gives him a stark alert. If he gets another heart attack, he could die. Shin goes back to the garage, where a boy has come to get his car repaired. This boy is the friend of Shin's former co-worker, the rich customer she ran off with. Shin asks the boy about the girl. The boy starts speaking badly about her, and then even speaks badly about Shin. Shin remains completely silent. The next day, when the boy comes to pick up his car, Shin sees that this boy is also disappearing in the air. He knows the boy is going to die, but Shin, remembering the doctor's warning, decides not to do anything. A few days later, we see Shin at the funeral of that man, watching him being buried. The man's little daughter is crying for her father. Shin is incredibly sad after seeing the girl. He keeps remembering the little girl from the plane crash, the one he couldn't save. The next day, he sits sadly in a park. Some children are playing with their teacher. A little girl comes up to him and asks for her ball. Slowly, her body starts disappearing, and then, all of a sudden, the other children and even the teacher's body start disappearing too. Shin quickly checks all the children's hands. The teacher thinks he's doing something inappropriate and rushes all the children away. A letter from the school drops from her hand. It says, "The school children are going on a trip by train." Shin realizes that something terrible is going to happen. The next day, he goes to the station. Many passengers are disappearing in the same way. Shin understands that the train leaving at 7:30 the next morning is going to have an accident. He is absolutely sure because the school letter said the children were taking this train. Then, he realizes something horrifying. O also travels by this train. Her life is in danger too. He rushes to Ao's house that night to see her and is relieved to find her safe and sound. To save her, he asks Ao to go on a trip with him for 3 days. She thinks about it, but then agrees. Shin is happy, but he still needs to save the children and the other passengers. He calls the school to cancel the trip, but without a valid reason, the school authority refuses. That evening, Shin writes a letter to Ao, telling her everything honestly, including the trip. He also writes how much he loves her, but his entire plan fails the next morning. Ao messages him, saying her coworker is unwell, so she is forced to go to the store. As soon as Shin reads the message, he starts running toward the station. But the police are waiting for him outside the house. The school teacher had complained that he was misbehaving with the children. To save Ao, he manages to escape the police. But when he gets to the station, Ao has already boarded the train. He quickly takes a taxi and rushes to the next station so he can stop the train before it reaches there. At the next station, he sees construction work happening. He realizes that a metal can used in the construction is going to fall onto the train compartment, killing everyone. Shin can't let this happen. He stands right in front of the train with a smoke candle. Ao, who is in the compartment just behind the engine, sees Shin and asks the driver to stop the train. The driver slams the brakes. In the distance, we see the metal can falling, but the train is stopped. Shin has successfully stopped the accident and saved everyone's lives. Ao immediately rushes out of the train. She sees Shin sitting on the tracks. As she gets close to him, she starts crying bitterly. She hugs him because he had lost his life to save her and the others. At Shin's funeral, Ao learns that she was the first girl Shin had ever opened up to. This makes her even sadder. And in the very next scene, a final truth is revealed. Ao is the same girl whom Shin had seen during the plane crash, the one who asked for help. Shin had saved her before the plane part fell, but he was in such shock that he didn't remember it. Here is the final twist. Ao also had the fortune eye. She was always looking for Shin. When Shin first came to the shop and reacted to seeing her disappearing hands, she understood that he was the boy who had saved her. She had boarded the train intentionally because when Shin came to ask her for the trip, Ao had seen that his body was disappearing. She decided to travel in the train to save Shin. But Shin also put his life on the line to save his love. After this, we see Ao reading the letter Shin had written for her. She cries a lot, puts on the rings he bought, and holds him close in her memory. And with this, the story of the film Fortuna comes to a beautiful, heartbreaking end.